You know, sometimes a name of a parsha, every time, but sometimes he concentrating more or less than other times. The name of the parsha, of this parsha, Bechukotai, is so much in the name. First of all, the name Parsha Bechukotai means in my laws. But laws have a few expressions in Hebrew. Mishpatim is laws, Eidut is laws, Mitzvot is laws, Chukotai is laws. There is, every name has a specific, more specific meaning. There is 3 types of mitzvahs within Jewish law. Mishpatim are mitzvahs that make sense, like honoring your father and mother, not to kill. The Talmud says if not for the Torah was given, we would learn modesty from a cat, and not to robbery, not to rob from an ant, the ants. Then there is mitzvahs that we don't need God for it. Not to honor your father. Everybody knows. Then there are mitzvahs who are called Eidut. Eidut means testimonial mitzvahs. These are mitzvahs that without God I wouldn't do them, but after God told me to do it, I know why. It makes sense. For example, keeping Shabbat. Why we keep Shabbat? I wouldn't come up with an idea of keeping Shabbat. But after God says it's to remember that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th day, it makes sense. Eating matzah and Pesach for 7 days, I wouldn't come up with the idea on my own. But after God says it, it makes sense because the 7 days we left Egypt from the Exodus until the splitting of the sea. Makes sense. That's mitzvahs that are testimonial mitzvahs are called. I wouldn't come up with them, but after God said it, it makes sense. Then there is mitzvahs that completely don't make sense. They are called chukim. Chukim is mitzvahs that are like circumcision. What's the logic behind circumcision? No really logic. Not to eat milk and meat. Kosher. The laws of kosher really don't make sense. Give explanations and here and there, but the bottom line is it's a chok. It's above logic. And there is more and more things above logic. Chukotai, chukim, stands for the word that mitzvahs that are above logic. That when the Torah says, Parshas Bechukotai telechu, you should walk in my laws, it means that God wants us, that even the mitzvahs that make sense, well, I'll ask a question, what people do more, quicker? Mitzvahs that make sense or mitzvahs that don't make sense? What do you think?
The ones that don't make sense.
What do you think?
I think that we do that what we think makes sense.
We do more.
Right.
You're right. On a simple level, you're right. On another level, you're right. Look, mitzvahs that make sense, not to steal. Everybody knows how many people observe it. On the other hand, fasting on Yom Kippur doesn't make sense. It's above logic. Yom Kippur. Everybody's doing Yom Kippur. In a strange way, circumcision on Yom Kippur is more observed than most of the mitzvahs that make sense. Charity makes sense. How many people don't do it? All the mitzvahs that make sense about agricultural mitzvahs in Israel, many people don't. Mitzvahs that don't make sense, actually people do it. Why? Because when it makes sense, why people look for a reason for the mitzvah? They try to find a way out of it. The reason why they try to give an explanation for keeping kosher. Why? Because then it was hygiene. They needed to. Now we don't need it because we have refrigerators and we have this. Then whenever you look for a reason for the mitzvah, it's not because you want to do it with more excitement, it's because you want to find a way out. The moment you have no reason, you're stuck. God said so. Why? I don't know. I cannot. There's no way. If there is an explanation, I can twist it around. There's no explanation, I cannot twist it around. Then the Torah tells us we should do the mitzvahs that make sense with the same commitment that we do the mitzvahs that don't make sense. Why? Why I need to honor your father, my father and mother, as a way, as I'm committed to the mitzvah of Brit Milah, circumcision, or fasting on Yom Kippur. What's wrong? Should I do it because it makes sense? I like it. I love my father and my mother. I understand that I have to honor them. It makes sense. Why I need to do it with this commitment? What will be missing in my mitzvah if I only do it because it makes sense? Why God is expecting of me, as Hasidus explains it, I should be committed to every mitzvah that makes sense, not because it makes sense, but because God said so. Why I need the component of God said so in this mitzvah? Because there is many reasons why not to honor my father and mother. He abused me. He abandoned me. He does me. He schmoes me. Excuses we have from here until next year. Then we go to the psychologist and we sit 1 year by the psychologist because my father told me this and I cannot get over it. That if you do the mitzvah of honoring your father and mother because it makes sense, you will find always reason not to do it, excuses not to do it. But when you do it because God said so, God said so. No argument. Yeah, he abused you, all nice and fine. I have an explanation for it too. I tell people, oh, you're angry with your father. Yeah. Is your life worth anything, or you want to commit suicide? As long as you're not ready to commit suicide, means that your father gave you a gift. It's called life. And you have to respect him. So he wasn't so nice to you when you were 7 years old, or 17, or 27, and you want to get a job. Then this is why the Torah tells us, Bechukotai, the name of the Parshat, first of all, tells us, we observe the mitzvahs because God said so. The testimonial mitzvahs that makes us say the mitzvah makes sense. I get up in the morning, why I do something? Because God said so. Later I try to understand, everything is nice and fine. That's one level of understanding the word Bechukotai. My chukim, my laws, they don't make sense. There is a deeper level. I mentioned the story a few times, and I will tell the story again. You'll survive. It was a chassid in New York in the 1940s. He came to America in 1930s, late 1930s. He came from Europe. He was sent by the previous Lubavitcher Rabbi. His name was Rabbi Shmuel Levitin. He came to fundraise in America and to spread Hasidus. And he stayed in America, and the previous Rabbi told him, stay longer, stay longer, stay longer, stay longer. He got caught, the war broke out, he didn't go back to Europe. His wife and some of his kids, I think, perished in the Holocaust. He lived in 770 from then until he passed away, I think in 1973 or 74, something like this. He lived a long life by himself in a small room in 770. Very wise man, big, very important scholar. The story once, one of the donors of the yeshiva came to start to tell the yeshiva how to do things. He was the chief mashpia, it's called, of the yeshiva, mentor. And this rabbi called this donor who came to tell people, to tell the principals how to run the yeshiva, and told him, come here. I said, how much you donated to yeshiva? He tells him, I said, I donated more from you. He says, I'm for 30 years not taking a salary. I donated much more than you. Don't tell us what to do. You want to give your donation, give. If not, have a nice day. Then this chassid in 1943, 44, somewhere around this time, he was asked by the Hasidim in Chicago. There was a big Chabad group in Chicago at that time to come to visit. The previous Rabbi at that time was already sick and paralyzed and he couldn't travel. They asked him to come to bring some spirit, inspiration. At that time, the biggest supporters of Chabad were in Chicago. That was the biggest community. Before he went to Chicago, he went into the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe for a blessing and directions. What should he do in Chicago? He walked into his office. It was on the second floor in 770, Eastern Parkway. Anybody who was there knows what I'm talking about. And he tells the Rebbe he's going to Chicago. The Rebbe told him like this, in Chicago, there is somebody, a descendant from a Hasidic family. His name is Listener, Mr. Listener. And I want you to go to visit him, to bring him around. Remind him his roots, from where he's coming. Fine. At that time, they traveled to Chicago by train. He was sitting in New York, he went to Chicago. In Chicago, there was a whole delegation of rabbis waiting for this famous rabbi from New York who is coming to visit them for a week, for 2, I don't know how long it was. He gets off the train, he tells them, I'm going to Mr. Listener. We're not going anywhere. Straight to Mr. Listener. The Rabbi told me to go to Mr. Listener. I'm going straight to Mr. Listener. He says, is he coming to shul? They tell him, yeah. He has a seat in shul. He's not coming too often to shul. And the high holidays, you see him sometimes. Before long, Mr. Listener is sitting in his office, and a delegation of rabbis walks in the middle of the day out of nowhere. He didn't know from where they fell on him. He never saw this. He was a rabbi with a long white beard, or very looked. Sit down. This rabbi Shmuel Levitin knew Mr. Listener's father and grandfather from Europe. He started telling stories about his father, about his grandfather. It was an unbelievable visit. He was inspired. It was amazing. And by the end of the visit, Mr. Listener pulls out his checkbook and he's asking for what name to write his check, for what organization. He told them, put your checkbook back inside. I didn't come here for money. He says, and what is an old rabbi came from New York to drink a cup of coffee in my office? He told them, listen, you know, in Europe, in every shtetl used to be, everyone had a Torah. People had tefillin, mezuzahs. Now, every mezuzah, tefillin, or Torah, how it's written, ink and parchment. Therefore, often, the letters, after the years, the letters are being erased. That's why you need to check them and to fix them. That's the type of the scribe that he goes around, is to open the Torahs, check them out, check mezuzahs. We check the mezuzahs every year, the tefillin, and so on. But in the shtetl, small towns in Europe, one town did not have enough business for a scribe. What he did, he traveled around. 1 week he was in this place, another week he was in this place. And he fixed. That's how he made a living. The Rabbi Levitin tells him, I'm a traveling scribe. Says, you see, and every Jew is a Torah. It's written in the Talmud that the word Israel is an acronym for Yesh Shishim Ribo Otiot LaTorah. The Torah is 600,000 letters. That means to say that every Jew has a letter in the Torah. Said sometimes some letter get erased. The letter of kosher gets erased. The letter of tefillin, Shabbat, some letters get erased. And my job is to go travel around town and to fix the letters, to correct them, to add some ink to the letters. He obviously loved the explanation, and they parted in very good. It was a very nice meeting. Fine, after a week or two, Rabbi Levitin comes back to New York. First thing he's doing, he's going to the previous Rabbi to give him a report of the visit. He walks in, he was very close with the Rabbi, probably the previous Rabbi, probably the closest chassid at that years to the previous Rabbi. He comes in, the Rabbi told him, I don't know, you were by Mr. Listener? He said, yes. How was it? He started to tell him about the story. He came in, and he wanted to give him a check. And he told them the explanation that I told them, that we are like a Torah, every Jew is a Torah, and there is some letters get erased. And he was very excited about this explanation. He felt very good about it. And he saw that the Rabbi was sitting like this. He knew from the face that the Rabbi was not excited about the explanation. That he asked the Rabbi, like, he didn't have to ask, he just looked at where I got wrong, or what is not right here. The Rabbi told him there is two types of writing. There is otiyot aktiva, letters that you writing, and there is letters that you engrave. The Torah is two separate things. You take ink, you put on parchment, and you write it. Because there are two separate things, they can get erased. Engraving, the letters that are on the two tablets, the 10 Commandments on the tablets, you engrave them, right? They were engraved. When you engrave letters on stone, they can never be erased. Never. They're there, forever and ever. Rabbi told them, the Torah, the way it's written in the parchment, is ink and parchment. The Torah that's written in a Jewish soul is like the two tablets coming out to Shavuos. You have the tablets, right? The tablets are engraved, the letters are engraved in the tablets. So too the Torah with the Jew the letters are engraved in the Jew. He can never get rid of it. It's a part of him. What could only happen from time to time? It get dusty. There's dust accumulating under letters. I told them, our job is to go around and clean the dust. But we don't have to write a new letter. We don't have to introduce a new concept. The moment you clean the dust, the letter comes out shining. The moment you wake up the Jew, the letter comes out clear and shining. That's the letters that we're talking about. Bechukotai is the same word as hakika, engraved letters. Then God wants from us that the letters should be engraved in our soul. It should be a part of us. How we accomplish it? That when a little child learns Judaism, he learns Shema Israel, and he learns Modani, and he learns the prayers, and he learns stories about God and the Bible and the tzaddikim. This is engraved in his soul. No matter where he will go, he will never be able to shake this off. That will be a part of him. And that's why Jewish education at a young age is so important. More important than everything. And that's why day schools or any preschools, anything Jewish that will give a strong Jewish education, or not only preschools and day schools, parents, grandparents, tell the kids stories about God and about the Torah and about the Jewish people, and teach them prayers and celebrate them holidays. This is engraved in them and will never leave them.